Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. And before we start, a really quick reminder to those of you who love this content but haven't subscribed yet, come on, click that subscribe button and join us. You'll feel better about it, I know you will. Now let's get started with today's main story. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Particular Aioli. How can I, 30 female, be less intimidating? There is a guy, 28 or 29 male, I like and I don't want to scare him off. I made a huge mistake growing up and consciously never dated in high school or university. I went to medical school and never had any time, so any relationship I had was very casual. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 25, and in the intervening years, I've had a whopping collective of 2 sexual partners. And only a few times did we get to business. I realized I was in a funk, and after a lot of soul searching, I realized that my funk was, in part, just my own foibles. I was living such an uptight life, and one thing I longed for was a partner in crime, someone I could share my life with. I realized that it was going to be hard living as I was, and I got a therapist and took conscious steps towards changing some of my ways. I was incredibly fastidious and overly organized. I basically lived in a showcase apartment that was never out of place. Anyways, I've done a lot of work on myself. I'm reasonably intelligent and hardworking, and I'm pretty good looking, if I do say so myself. I was fixed up on a few dates with classmates or colleagues, but dating another physician was not that great. You really don't have much to talk about, and what you do have to talk about is work. I can't be in a relationship where it's just work. Efforts to try to break free of the conversation trap were not successful, and the relationships fizzled. Then I tried online dating, which is everything people would think it to be. The person who shows up is either 20 years older than in their photo, or the person you chatted with is actually a fictitious persona that in no way reflects who they are in real life. I'm not asking for anything specific, but something reasonably close to what people told me online. I sort of lost faith in online dating when one person showed up who I'm certain wasn't even 21, then got upset when I said I doubted his age and tried to pump me for money. The best that I encountered recently was a guy, George, who was a nice fellow. We went on a number of dates, very quiet and reserved. He didn't much care for chit-chat, but was a gentleman and very lovely. He was roughly my age and seemed to be fairly normal. We went on a number of dates, but one day he just never showed up and simply ghosted me. I sent a message asking what happened and why he never showed up. He didn't respond until he randomly texted me an apology and said that I was too intimidating. That's something I had heard before. People think that I'm not going to be interested in them because I live on my own or because I'm a doctor. I don't know how to be less intimidating. I don't browbeat people intellectually. I'm not rude or condescending with people of different educational backgrounds. I'm not snobby or an elitist. So my question is, how do I be less intimidating? I ask because there is a guy I've met. He's the brother of a friend. He's roughly my age, single, funny, well-educated and professional, and we share similar interests. He has a way of making you feel like you're the only person in the room. I attempted to flirt, which I'm admittedly not great at, but I got my point across. He had to leave for an event, but I spoke to him and know that he'll be at another event this evening, and I really want to make a good impression and ask him on a date. But wait, is asking a guy out very uncouth? Is it bad to be straightforward? Anyway, I really like him and would like to spend time with him where we could get to know each other better. I'm really nervous and want to make a good impression, and this intimidating thing is really weighing on me. Well, OP, first of all, in my opinion, no, it is not uncouth or very uncouth if you were to ask a guy out. If you have an interest and you feel some sort of chemistry, I don't think it really matters who asks out who first. Some people might not like it or not accept it, that's fine, that's their prerogative, but in my opinion, it doesn't matter. Now, to the point of you being too intimidating? If everything you say about yourself is absolutely true and you're not downplaying anything, then it sounds to me like you're a very humble and down-to-earth person. You say you don't browbeat people, so if George found you intimidating and that's the reason for him not to date you anymore, then that's a George problem and not an OP problem. I think it reflects more, or it speaks more about the insecurities that George might have as a person to see you as intimidating and not being able to date you anymore because, I don't know, he's afraid of you? I don't get it. Maybe he feels he's not good enough, but again, it's not your problem to address, OP. You don't need to be less intimidating. I just think you need to be yourself and be honest from the beginning with what you like and what you don't like when you meet this new guy, and if the guy likes you and doesn't have any security or self-assurance issues, then he'll definitely go after you, OP. Don't worry about it. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? How would you deal with it if you were in her shoes? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Flippo10000 says, you won't be intimidating to a man who is your equal. Might be hard to find though. Smiley face, coffee. And OP responds, that's kind of what I'm worried about. I'm not interested in other physicians and I don't want people from other vocations to think we're not equal, you know? Degenerate Scholar says, if a man is intimidated, it's because of him and not you. I've dated PhDs and guys who barely got through high school. The common thread between them is that they believed they had something to offer that I would be interested in. Empathy, sense of humor, the ability to talk about something for hours, sense of adventure, and a love of animals. The right person won't just see you as a hot chick with a medical degree. The right person will say, okay, hot chick with a medical degree. Maybe she's worth getting to know better. Substick Count says, quote, wait, is asking a guy out very uncouth? Is it bad to be straightforward? End quote. No and no. But I'll be perfectly transparent with you based on my knowledge of men my age. I'm 31 male. A lot of men aren't going to respond to your advances because they want to be the one chasing. They want to win the prize, and quite frankly, it's a BS ego thing. However, you can use this in your favor because you don't want those type of men responding anyway. Keep doing what you're doing and you'll deal with some rejection, but you also stand a great chance at meeting someone. Eventually, you're going to find a guy that is confident, forthright, and appreciates your direct approach. The Bram says, okay, so here's the thing. Because you've denied yourself a substantive romantic life for so long, even though you're 30 years old, you're going to have the dating experience and expectations of a 20-year-old. What that means is you haven't spent 10 years developing your character judgment, your knowledge of what's normal, or have managed your own expectations in a boyfriend to the degree your peers have. As anyone in their 30s and with long-term partners will tell you, you have to sift a lot of sand to find the gold. You sound like someone with a lot of self-control who likes feeling in control. You're going to need to let that go to be successful in finding a good partner. Finding a partner is easy, but why settle? Dating apps and even dating in general are chaotic, especially when you're in the early stages of doing many first dates. It's also the best way to do it if you don't have romantic prospects at work or school. You're going to have to prepare yourself to feel like you're wasting a lot of time on guys who aren't worth it. But even if you never see them again after one bad date, you are still learning a little more about how to do better or be more selective the next time. And to answer your actual question, there is nothing about being a successful doctor with 2 sexual partners ever and no real boyfriend in your history that makes you somehow fundamentally undateable. It puts you at a higher risk of being taken advantage of, certainly, but the kind of men you want to meet are absolutely out there. Additional information from OP's comments. I have to say that I used to keep up the doctor mood when I first started to get out there. I won't deny that. I'd keep that dispassionate doctor front up, and I know it was a turn off for people. It's something I'm really working on. It can make me sound pretentious and stuck up. I consciously worked on that after a friend of mine who is a lawyer said that lawyers do the same thing and it makes life hard for them too. Now, in spite of that, work is not all in my life. For surgeons, sure, they live and breathe surgery, and it's why they have such an astonishing divorce rate. I'm working towards being a primary care provider. Aside from one Saturday a month, I work pretty standard business hours. I have occasional shifts at the hospital as they run a family medicine or urgent care walk-in. I realize that more and more, I'd like a family life and would also make room in my life for a husband and eventually children. Having nothing but my career sounds positively horrible. Now, in general, I feel like I'm a pretty vulnerable person. I can be very honest about how I feel, which could be off-putting, I guess. I always try my best to never do the one-up thing, and this guy makes me feel nervous and like I'm the only person in the room. I would believe he's got enough self-esteem to consider himself my equal. He's really smart, he's got a graduate degree, and he's very witty and funny. I found myself speechless chatting with him. I really can't wait to see him this evening. Alright, well, I think the community gave OP some pretty decent advice. If you're found too intimidating, it's not your problem, it's somebody else's. So you just do your thing, OP. And also from her comments, we can tell that OP is really excited and kind of nervous about tonight. So let's move on to the update to see what happened next. But before that, if you're enjoying this content so far, please go ahead and click that like button for me. It does help out. Now, let's continue with the update. I basically wanted to thank everyone who wrote in and gave me such great advice. Most people gave me some dating pointers, but the message was to try and not change who you are, who I am. That advice couldn't have been more spot on. So Friday was a birthday celebration for a friend. My friend was bringing her brother, who is newly re-arrived to the area, and I confirmed he was single. I want to put it out there and say that most of you were 100% spot on. I thought I knew it all about dating, but I had a lot to learn. I feel like in some ways, I'm still a teenager in that regard. For example, we were chatting as a group, and people were joking around. I was getting lightly teased and figured that meant that there was a no thanks, don't advance sign between the new guy and me. I made a comment to a friend who pointed out that it generally means the opposite. I don't really know what any of the signs or signals are. I don't know when to go in for a kiss or when to back off, and I'm not entirely sure who or how one asks for a date. Anyway, things went swimmingly on Friday, so it's not a big issue. After dinner, we hung around for drinks and he specifically got me to sit next to him. It was absolutely magical. I had such an amazing time. We wound up chatting until really late in the night. Instead of being intimidated, I find him intimidating more than anything. He's very smart, very well educated, very classy, and very well mannered. We share similar interests, but it was also so nice to meet a guy who had his own interests and passions and who was as committed to things like learning as I am. He's so charming and funny that I found myself laughing even at things that normally wouldn't tickle my fancy. He made plans with his sister and her family for the following day and then invited me to join them. His sister gently told me to seriously find a way out of work and come, as he is very interested in me. I furiously texted colleagues to see if they'd switch. Such a crappy move, but I really wanted to go. Fortunately, someone really wanted the shift, so I was free. We spent the late morning and early afternoon with his sister and her family, and then they went home to nap the kids, so new guy and I went off. We wound up spending the rest of the day together, walking around and snacking and having fun. We grabbed an early-ish dinner. I was so tired as I'm not used to being up late for social activities. I was planning what I should do to ask him out to let him know that I was interested. But he asked me out, and we're going on an actual date this Friday. We've been chatting via text and he's still gently teasing me. I committed a faux pas and asked if we should split the bill, and he responded with a joke and said that it was his treat and not to worry. He's using that as fodder for his jokes. And I think the faux pas was trying to figure out a full 5 days before the date. Smiley face, coffee. I think he thought it was more funny than anything. He knows I'm mostly a ball of debt at the moment, and he has considerably more money than I do. It's actually nice because I really couldn't afford to go to the place he's taking me to. I really see now how not dating left me a little out of sync with the rest of the people my age. It also showed me that I don't need to change to be noticed or meet someone. It's the first time I've felt good about dating and not trying to find a way to ensure the negatives outweigh the positives. He's very easy to talk to, and from what I know and others have told me, he's a very easygoing person, which is good because I can get stressed out and close up a little bit too easily. All in all, I feel really good. Well, OP, this is awesome. You didn't need to change in one bit who you are or how you talk or how you approach people because this guy liked you for you, which is great. So now that you got past that first part, it's time to keep getting to know him and see if you guys are a true fit. And on that note, here's wishing you the best in the future, OP. Thank you so much for sharing and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Faulty Carbon. Keep rinsing the rice until the water runs clear? Got it. Years ago, I was a cook at a well-known fast casual restaurant known for its large burritos and charging extra for wok. I worked hard because the place was very understaffed given the number of customers that came in. Management was understanding when we had to cut corners to make sure people did not wait for food. One of the rules we had to follow before cooking the rice was to rinse the raw rice 3 times until the water runs clear. Vague? I know. How clear is clear? What if after 3 times the water is not clear? 3 times and runs clear, or 3 times or runs clear? Who knows? I did not ask. Most of the time we would give the rice 1 or 2 rinses before throwing it into the cooker. Never had any problems with customers complaining about it, and we never ran out of rice. Since there were never any problems, management did not care and everyone was happy. That is until one day, Miss Manager decides it is time to enforce every single rule exactly, not sure why. To get to the position she was in, she knew how to do all the individual tasks in the kitchen, so she knew the rules. However, she did not know how to conduct a symphony of the dozens of simultaneous tasks at the speed and accuracy required to keep customers moving and never burn anything. I did. She did not know which corners were okay to cut and which ones were not. I did. I was getting ready for the busy shift, but the kitchen was not in busy mode yet. I was rinsing rice and Miss Manager approached me. Make sure to rinse the rice until the water runs clear. I look at her and respond, I always do. She knew I was lying, but she knew why. She knew that I would take longer to make the rice, but I was the only one who could make sure that rice never runs out. Her life would be hell if we ran out of rice. She had a chance to let it go, she did not though. Mr. Cook, I know you don't follow that rule. Keep rinsing the rice until the water runs clear, and before you put the rice in the cooker, come find me and show me that it runs clear. I looked at her with a straight face and replied, keep rinsing the rice until it runs clear. Got it. I begin by filling the pot of rice with water, agitating the rice, pulling out the perforated part of the pot and dumping out all the cloudy water. After 3 times, the water still resembles watered down skim milk. I look up, she is watching me. She asks, does that water look clear to you? It was rhetorical. I see how it is. I start rinsing again. Satisfied, she walks away. I continue repeating the process. A while goes by and yes, I am counting the number of times. The long grains of rice are breaking apart and the entire pot is turning into a strange mushy mixture of white rice. Given the time I am taking to do this dumb task, everything else that needs to get started in the kitchen is falling behind. Finally, Miss Manager appears in the kitchen again. You're still rinsing rice? The timing was perfect. I dumped out the water in front of her and asked, does that water look clear to you? As I dump out the precursor to slightly watered down horchata, she softly says, no. I step away from the sink. How many times do you think I've rinsed this rice? I ask. 7? She answers. No, try 37. I wasn't joking. I have rinsed this rice 37 times and the water is not turning clear to your satisfaction. Should I continue? She looked at the rice, knowing it wasn't usable and that she had lost the fight. On the one hand, she could not tell me to keep going because the ground up rice was only a few rinses and a cook away from becoming grits. On the other hand, she cannot tell me to stop rinsing because then she would be in violation of the sacred rice rinsing commandment. Additionally, she cannot fire me, otherwise the store could not open. She scheduled me to work the entire day, and she sure knows that she could not do what I do in the kitchen. Fine, she relents. Get back in there and make sure we're ready when it's time to open. I laughed to myself as I went back to work. I win. You certainly did win, OP. You certainly did. Thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.